And this is Jon Kuzma from EndZoneBlog.com. Step your game up. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get to the show. First things first, on the ticker, we have Jimmy Garoppolo. If you guys haven't been paying attention, Jimmy Garoppolo was recently traded to the San Francisco 49ers from the New England Patriots for a second-round pick. Since arriving in the Bay Area, Garoppolo finally took over this team, and he's led the 49ers to a 2-0 record since he's been at the helm. If you're not familiar, the 49ers only won one game the whole season before Jimmy Garoppolo got there. Now they've won 2 games in a row, so clearly this guy's having a huge impact. And suddenly, San Francisco has an identity moving forward. John Lynch knew that adding this guy to the mix will be big for him and Kyle Shanahan and the rest of everybody else in that organization. So it's been a great move by the 49ers so far. And let's look at who they beat. They beat the Bears and the Texans. Okay, those teams aren't very good, but before that, San Francisco was even worse than those two teams. So that's a good sign moving forward. Garoppolo has 2 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, 645 yards for a QB rating of 92.7. And really, all they got to do is build role players around this guy. So this was a great move for this franchise. A second round pick isn't that much to give up for a signal caller that can completely revamp an organization like Jimmy Garoppolo can. So you got to like what the San Francisco 49ers are doing right now. And you have to believe that this regime will ultimately get it done because they've made the right move time and time again since taking over. So things are trending upward finally for San Francisco, and it should be a lot of fun to watch this team play the rest of the season, the next 3 games. Continuing on, Aaron Rodgers came back. If you're a Packers fan, you got to be ecstatic because Aaron Rodgers came back this week. He's expected to be the starter Sunday against Carolina. If you're not familiar, he is returning from a broken collarbone where he had 13 screws placed in his shoulder. He underwent surgery. That was during the regular season, so he's actually somewhat rushing back to help maybe the Packers save their season. He's going to be going against his old teammate, Julius Peppers, who's playing defensive end for the Carolina Panthers. So, and then the rest of the Panthers defense is tough as nails too. You got Luke Kuechly and the rest of those guys over there. So rushing Rodgers back is kind of scary. It's definitely a risky move for this team and for Mike McCarthy. Obviously, they want their main guy on the field so they have the best chance to win. But at some point, you have to be worried about, is Rodgers really able to go? I know the medical staff has cleared him, but I think when you have such a marquee player like this, you take your time and make sure no matter what that he is 100% healthy. It's a gamble by Green Bay, but obviously Rodgers is comfortable with it, and we'll see how it pans out. Obviously, last year they rattled off 6 straight wins to get in the playoffs. So 3 wins is a lot short for Green Bay. But like I said, it's just still a big risk to bring him back this soon, and you got to keep an eye on the situation because you don't know how it's gonna pan out. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Nobody wants to play the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. The Jaguars are hot. They just beat Seattle last weekend. They're currently 9-4. They're first in the AFC South. And if you're an AFC team, you have to be worried about the Jags in the playoffs. Now, we're used to the Pats, the Steelers, and the Chiefs dominating the AFC once the playoffs come around. But this year, those teams have to be on high alert for the Jaguars because Jacksonville's so young. They're so youthful, and they have such dynamic players that those guys could shake up the status quo and knock off either New England, Pittsburgh, or Kansas City. It's one other thing. The Jags have the best running attack in all of football. They have the best pass defense in all of football. I think they have a top-ranked defense in almost every category. So this team, just from a 360-degree standpoint, is much more complete than a lot of the other teams in the league. And give credit for everybody down there. Bortles has been turning around. Leonard Fournette has been a huge acquisition for this team. They got young guys like Dede Westbrook, and then they added A.J. Bouye, and they got Jalen Ramsey killing it, and Miles Jack. So there's just a lot of good young pieces. And they picked up Calais Campbell this offseason. All these guys really set the tone for this football team, and now the Jacksonville Jaguars are one of the best up-and-coming teams in the league right now. Expect them to win the AFC South, and they're going to be a lot to handle once the playoffs go around. Continuing on, New England and Brady. New England and Brady took a pretty big hit against the Miami Dolphins last week. Tom struggled. The offense was lackluster. The defense was non-existent. And you have to wonder, are the Patriots Super Bowl worthy right now? If you ask me, I think they could make some adjustments and maybe get back to the Super Bowl. But man, it's going to be so tough for this team to win it all. It's just so hard to win a Super Bowl or a Vince Lombardi trophy in the National Football League. And you have to have everything go right for you. And New England this year, defensively, they haven't been very good at all. Offensively, they weren't clicking last week. Brady, I hate to say it because Brady's been so good for so long, and he said he could play for another 8 years. But Brady started to look a little bit out of sync last weekend. Actually, last 2 games he's really been not up to his normal standards. So you got to be worried that maybe Tom Brady's hitting the wall a little bit at 40 years old, and it's going to be on him to really elevate his play and will this team down the stretch. Now, can he do that? Absolutely. We've seen him do it before. But he needs help from the other guys, too. And right now, his supporting cast doesn't seem as talented as it's been in the years past. Just injuries, a lot of losses this offseason. So there's definitely been a regression for the New England Patriots from last year's Super Bowl team to this year's team. And, you got Pittsburgh, who's on the money right now, and you got Jacksonville, who's getting better. These teams are gaining ground on the Patriots, and, you can't always just get it done with having the best system. Sooner or later, you got to have the best talent, too. And New England doesn't have the best talent. They just have a great coach, a great system, and they're very, very disciplined. But, if I had to say who's the most talented team as far as the AFC goes, I think it's Pittsburgh. They got the best running back in Le'Veon Bell. They got the best receiver in Antonio Brown. Ben Roethlisberger has more 500-yard passing yards games than anyone else out. Sorry about that. So the Steelers are very, very dynamic, and they can knock off anybody. Continuing on, we have the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are one of the hottest teams in the NFC right now. Carolina just knocked off Minnesota, snapping their huge win streak. It's safe to say the Panthers' stock is soaring. They're 9-4. They're currently the fifth seed at the playoffs started today. And Cam Newton has put together 17 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Those numbers aren't necessarily great, but at least he's compiling wins, and it looks like right now that the Panthers should be going back to the postseason. Now, that's such a hard feat to accomplish. We take for granted when teams like the Patriots go almost every single year, but for all the other guys, it's tough to make it to the playoffs. And, we've seen Cam Newton regress a little bit after he went to the Super Bowl against Denver. Well, now it seems like things are starting to get back on track. Carolina has their confidence. Jonathan Stewart scored 3 rushing touchdowns last weekend. So Carolina's trending upward. They could be the team that comes through and shocks everybody in the NFC. I like the Saints. I like the Rams. I think the Eagles are toast without Carson Wentz. But, look out for Carolina. They could come back and redeem themselves from that last Super Bowl letdown they had. I think it was in 2015 or maybe it was in 2016. 2015, actually. So, next, the Bills. The Bills currently had the last playoff spot in the AFC. They started Nathan Peterman last game against the Colts. Shocking, he didn't throw 5 interceptions this past game. He threw 1 touchdown with no interceptions. Uh, you know, the the Bills have made a lot of good trades this offseason. They shipped out Sammy Watkins. Uh, they got Jordan Matthews. They shipped out Marcel Darius. They're trying to revamp their roster while stockpiling draft picks. And the fact that they could ship off so much talent and still be a playoff contender, that says a lot about the direction this team's heading. I wouldn't have picked them to be in the AFC playoff picture if I would have, predicted that before the year. I just didn't think there was enough there. But Sean McDermott has done a good job taking over this team, and he's definitely taking strides in the right direction. I still think they would be better with Tyrod Taylor at the helm, but clearly they're adamant about starting Peterman. You got to like that this team's doing everything they can to shake things up, because the culture in Buffalo hasn't been that good traditionally. So they have those Bills fans very hype right now, and you got to give this organization a lot of credit. They are overachieving, that's clear, and if they can keep winning out for the rest of the year, expect to see the Bills in the playoffs, and they could shock someone too. I believe they'll probably end up being a one and done. I think Jacksonville's better than them, but you never know. The first step is getting in, and then you can make some magic happen from there. That's all we got tonight. I appreciate you tuning in. Look out for us next Wednesday. This is End Zone Blog. Step your game up. I'm Jon Kuzma. Have a great night.